The invitation arrived on a Tuesday, slipped beneath my apartment door like a poisoned gift. Cream-colored cardstock, embossed with golden letters that seemed to mock me even before I read the words. Marcus Chen and Victoria Sterling request the pleasure of your company. My hands trembled as I held it, the expensive paper rough against my fingertips. Marcus, my ex-boyfriend of 5 years, the man who'd promised me forever in whispered declarations, only to leave me 3 months ago for Victoria, his boss's daughter, a woman whose monthly shoe budget exceeded my yearly salary. I should have thrown it away, should have burned it really, but humiliation has a particular taste, bitter and metallic, and I'd been choking on it for weeks. This wasn't an invitation. It was a summons to my own public execution. The fluorescent light in my studio apartment flickered, casting shadows across the water-stained ceiling. Outside, sirens wailed through the Brooklyn streets, punctuated by the rhythmic drip of the broken faucet I couldn't afford to fix. I worked double shifts at Luminosa, an exclusive Italian restaurant in Manhattan where the wealthy came to be seen, where a single bottle of wine cost more than my rent. I served them with a smile, invisible in my black uniform, a ghost moving between tables of laughter and expensive perfume. The wedding was in 2 weeks. I'd already planned to call in sick, to spend that Saturday nursing cheap wine and cheaper regrets. But then came Friday night, and everything changed. Luminosa was packed, the dining room thrumming with conversation and the clink of crystal. The air smelled of truffle oil, aged wine, and money. That particular scent of confidence that comes from never having counted pennies. I moved through the tables mechanically, my feet aching in shoes held together with superglue, my smile practiced and hollow. "Table 12 needs attention," Marco, the head waiter, hissed as I passed. "VIP, don't mess this up." Table 12 sat in the corner, partially obscured by a marble pillar and cascading ivy. It was our most private table, reserved for people who valued discretion over being seen. As I approached, I noticed them first. 2 men in dark suits standing near the entrance, their eyes constantly scanning the room. Security. Serious security. Then I saw him. He sat with his back to the wall, a position that gave him a clear view of every entrance and exit. Even seated, I could tell he was tall, his frame filling the custom-tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car, if I'd owned a car. Dark hair, precisely cut. Hands that rested on the white tablecloth with deliberate stillness, a gold watch catching the candlelight. He was young, maybe early 30s, with the kind of face that belonged in films. Sharp jawline, olive skin, lips that suggested both cruelty and sensuality. But it was his eyes that stopped me mid-step. Dark, almost black. They lifted to meet mine with an intensity that felt physical, predatory, ancient. "Good evening." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "May I start you with something to drink?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he studied me with the same careful attention he'd given the room, his gaze traveling from my face to my name tag and back again. The silence stretched, heavy with something I couldn't name. "Brunello di Montalcino," he said finally, his accent wrapping around the Italian words like silk. "The 2015, and bring a second glass." "I'm sorry, sir, but if you're expecting... The second glass is for you." My heart stuttered. I can't. I'm working. Humor me." It wasn't a request, despite the casual tone. His fingers drummed once against the table. A gesture so slight I almost missed it. Immediately, one of the suited men shifted, his hand moving to his jacket. I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly dry. "I'll bring the wine." My hands shook as I retrieved the bottle from the cellar, its label worn and precious. $800 for this vintage. I'd served it before, always wondering what it tasted like, whether it really justified the price. When I returned, he gestured to the empty chair across from him. Every instinct screamed at me to refuse, to maintain the professional distance that kept me safe. But something in his expression, not threatening exactly but absolute, made refusal seem impossible. I sat. He poured with practiced ease, the wine glowing ruby red in the candlelight. Up close I could smell his cologne. Something dark and expensive, cedar and smoke, and something else, something dangerous. "You're afraid of me." Not a question, an observation. I don't know you. Yet you know to be afraid. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Smart. He slid the glass toward me. Drink. The wine touched my tongue like liquid velvet, complex and warming. I'd never tasted anything like it. What's your name? He asked. Emma? Emma Hartley. Emma, he repeated it slowly, as if testing how it felt in his mouth. You're tired, Emma. Exhausted. I can see it in the shadows beneath your eyes, in the way you hold yourself. Heat crept up my neck. I work a lot. Too much. His gaze dropped to my hands, to the cracked skin around my nails, the burn scar from last week's accident with a hot pan. You deserve better than this. I laughed, sharp and bitter. You don't know anything about what I deserve, don't I? He leaned forward slightly, and I caught another breath of his cologne mixed with something else, the scent of power, of violence carefully leashed. Tell me, Emma. What brings that look to your face, that particular shade of pain? I should get back to work. Sit. Again, that tone that wasn't quite a command but left no room for disobedience. Your manager won't interrupt. I've made sure of it. My pulse quickened. Who are you? Does it matter? You're dangerous. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Yes, no denial, no deflection. Just simple truth. But not to you. Never to you. The certainty in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, something warm and treacherous unfurled in my chest. He reached into his jacket. I tensed, but he only withdrew a sleek black phone and placed it on the table between us. I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to think carefully before answering. I waited, my heart hammering. Do you want to disappear, Emma? Leave this life behind? Become someone new? That's not possible. Everything is possible with the right resources. He paused, his dark eyes holding mine. I can give you anything you want. Protection, security, revenge, if that's what calls to you. Why? My voice cracked. Why would you offer that to a stranger? His expression shifted, something almost vulnerable flickering across his features before the mask of control returned. Because when I saw you moving through this room tonight, invisible to everyone else, I recognized something. A particular kind of loneliness. A particular kind of strength pretending to be weakness. He stood, towering over me, and extended his hand. Come with me, Emma. Let me show you what your life could be. I stared at his outstretched hand. Strong, scarred across the knuckles, adorned with a gold signet ring bearing an emblem I didn't recognize. Every rational thought screamed at me to refuse, to run, to cling to my small, safe, miserable life. But then, I thought of Marcus's invitation, still sitting on my kitchen counter. Thought of Victoria's perfectly manicured hand on his arm in the engagement photos that had circulated through social media like daggers. Thought of the way he'd looked at me the last time we spoke, with pity and relief that I was no longer his problem. I took his hand. His fingers closed around mine, warm and possessive, and something shifted in the air between us, a contract signed without words, a door opening onto darkness or salvation. I couldn't tell which. Good girl, he murmured, and the approval in his voice sent shivers down my spine. He led me through the restaurant, past my gaping coworkers, past the security who fell into step behind us. Outside, a black SUV idled at the curb, windows tinted so dark they looked like portals to another world. Wait. I pulled back, sudden panic flooding through me. I don't even know your name. I can't just... He turned, and in the streetlight, his face looked carved from marble, beautiful and merciless. Dante Ferraro. And yes, Emma, you can. The question is, will you? The door to the SUV opened, revealing leather seats and shadows. Behind me, the restaurant glowed warm and familiar. Ahead, only darkness and the promise of something I couldn't name. I thought of the invitation one more time. Of Marcus's smug smile. Of 5 years wasted on a man who'd traded me in like a used car. I stepped into the vehicle. As the door closed behind me, sealing me in leather and shadows, I caught Dante's reflection in the tinted window. He was smiling. A predator who'd just claimed his prey. What had I done? The SUV glided through Manhattan like a shark through dark water, silent except for the muffled sounds of the city beyond the bulletproof glass. I sat frozen in the back seat, hyper-aware of Dante beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body, smell that intoxicating mixture of cedar and danger that clung to him like a second skin. He hadn't spoken since we'd left Luminosa. Instead, he'd made 3 phone calls in rapid Italian, his voice low and commanding, while his free hand rested on the seat between us, so close to my thigh that every breath felt like a risk. "Where are we going?" I finally managed, hating how small my voice sounded. "Somewhere safe." His eyes remained fixed on the passing streets. "You'll need to trust me, Emma. I don't know you well enough to trust you." "No." He turned then, his dark gaze pinning me in place. "But you trusted your instinct when you took my hand. That's enough for now." The SUV turned onto a tree-lined street in the Upper East Side, stopping before a limestone townhouse that radiated old money and older secrets. The security, I'd counted 4 men in the vehicle, including the driver, moved with practiced efficiency, one checking the street, while another opened my door. Dante's hand found the small of my back, proprietary and warm through the thin fabric of my uniform. Inside, the townhouse interior stole my breath. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork that belonged in museums. But it was the silence that struck me most, thick and expectant, as if the house itself was holding its breath. A woman appeared from a side room, older, elegant, dressed in black. She spoke rapidly in Italian to Dante, her eyes flicking to me with undisguised curiosity. "Rosa will take you upstairs," Dante said. "Shower. There are clothes in the bedroom. We have much to discuss, but first you need to feel human again. I should call someone. My roommate will worry. Already handled." He'd pulled out his phone before I could protest. "Your roommate received a text from your number 10 minutes ago, saying you left early with a migraine. You're covered for your shifts tomorrow and Sunday." Ice flooded my veins. "How did you—" "I told you, Emma. Everything is possible with the right resources." He stepped closer, and I caught the dangerous glint in his eyes. "You're under my protection now. That means I know everything. Where you live, who you talk to, what threatens you." His fingers brushed my cheek, gentle despite the possession in his touch. "Get used to it." Rosa led me up a sweeping staircase to a bedroom that could have housed 3 of my studio apartments. A dress lay across the bed, deep emerald silk that shimmered in the lamplight. Simple, elegant, expensive. "Signor Ferraro has exquisite taste," Rosa said in accented English, the first time she'd spoken to me directly. "He chose this himself. Shower. There." She pointed to an adjoining bathroom. "Take your time. He can wait." But could I? The shower was a masterpiece of marble and steam. I stood under water hot enough to burn, watching the grime and grease of the restaurant swirl down the drain. My mind raced, trying to piece together what was happening. Dante Ferraro. The name meant nothing to me, but the way people responded to him, the immediate deference, the careful distance, spoke volumes. And the way he'd looked at me, like I was something precious, something he'd already decided to keep. I should have been terrified, should have been planning my escape. Instead, I dried off with towels softer than clouds and slipped into the emerald dress. It fit perfectly, clinging to curves I usually hid beneath baggy uniforms. The woman in the mirror looked like a stranger, polished, beautiful, dangerous. Dante was waiting in a study lined with leather-bound books, a glass of amber liquid in his hand. He'd removed his jacket, his white shirt rolled to the elbows, revealing forearms marked with scars that told stories I wasn't sure I wanted to hear. His eyes darkened when he saw me. "Perfect. The dress is yours. Everything in that room is yours now." He set down his glass and moved toward me with the fluid grace of a predator. "Sit, Emma. It's time we talked honestly." I perched on the edge of a leather chair, while he leaned against the desk, close enough to touch, far enough to let me breathe. "You're wondering what I want from you," he said, among other things. A flash of amusement crossed his face. "Direct. I like that." He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. I'm not a good man, Emma. I won't pretend otherwise. My family, we have certain business interests that exist outside conventional law. You're a criminal. My voice was steady despite the fear coiling in my stomach. I prefer entrepreneur, but yes, if you need simple labels. He crossed his arms, the movement making his shoulders strain against his shirt. I'm telling you this because I won't lie to you. Not now, not ever. You deserve to know exactly what you've walked into. Then let me leave. No. The word was soft, but absolute. Not yet. Not until you've heard my proposal. I stood, anger finally cutting through the fog of confusion and attraction. You can't keep me here against my will. He moved faster than I expected, closing the distance between us until I was backed against the bookshelf, surrounded by his heat and the scent of cedar and smoke. His hands braced on either side of my head, caging me in without touching. I could. He murmured, his breath warm against my cheek. I could keep you here, in this house, in this room, and no one would ever find you. I have the resources, the power, the connections. His eyes searched mine, dark and fathomless, but I won't. Because what I want, Emma, isn't your body in a cage, it's your choice. Your willing participation in what I'm about to offer, which is marriage. The word hung between us like a grenade. I laughed, sharp and disbelieving. You're insane. Possibly. He didn't move, didn't give me space. But I'm also serious. I need a wife, Emma. Someone who can stand beside me at events. Someone who can smile and lie and make my enemies believe I'm human enough to love. Someone unexpected enough that no one will see through the arrangement. There are thousands of women who would— I don't want thousands of women. I want you. His hand rose, fingers tracing the line of my jaw with devastating gentleness. From the moment I saw you tonight, moving through that restaurant like a ghost no one bothered to see, I knew. You're perfect. Invisible enough to be overlooked. Beautiful enough to be believable, and desperate enough to say yes. The cruelty of his honesty should have hurt. Instead, it felt like relief. Someone finally seeing me clearly, without illusions or false kindness. What do I get? I asked, hating the tremor in my voice. Everything. He stepped back, giving me room to breathe. Money, protection, a new identity if you want it, and revenge, if that's what burns in your heart. Marcus's face flashed through my mind. The invitation. Victoria's diamond ring that cost more than I'd earn in 5 years. There's a wedding, I heard myself say. My ex-boyfriend. He invited me to watch him marry his new girlfriend. It's in 2 weeks. Dante's expression shifted, something predatory and pleased sliding across his features. And you want to arrive on my arm. Show him what he lost. Make him choke on his own smugness. Yes, the admission felt like stepping off a cliff. He smiled then, slow and dangerous. Then we have a deal, Tesoro. You'll be my wife. In name, in public, in every way that matters. And I'll give you the tools to destroy anyone who's ever made you feel small. What about privately? The question emerged barely above a whisper. His eyes burned. Privately, you're safe from me. I won't touch you unless you ask. Won't come to your bed unless you invite me. This is business, Emma, not a prison sentence. But the way he looked at me, hungry, possessive, barely leashed, suggested business might become something else entirely. When? I asked. Tomorrow. I have connections. A judge who owes me favors. We'll be married by sunset. He pulled a phone from his pocket, different from the one I'd seen earlier. This is yours now. Untraceable. Secure. Use it to contact me, and only me. He handed it to me, and our fingers brushed. The contact sent electricity racing up my arm. One more thing, he said, his voice dropping to something almost tender. From this moment forward, you belong to me, Emma, not as property, as something far more valuable. Under my protection, my name, my power, that means no one touches you, no one threatens you, no one makes you feel less than the queen you're about to become. And if I change my mind, his jaw tightened, then you'll break something in me I didn't know could still break, but I'll let you go. He paused. After the wedding. Give me 2 weeks. Attend your ex-boyfriend's wedding as Mrs. Ferraro. Let me show you what your life could be, then decide. 2 weeks. 14 days to live in a fantasy, to taste revenge, to pretend I was someone worth wanting. Okay, I whispered. The word had barely left my lips before he moved, his hand cupping the back of my neck, pulling me close until his forehead rested against mine. Not a kiss. Something more intimate. A claiming. Mine. He breathed against my lips. Say it. Yours. The smile that curved his mouth was triumph and darkness, and something that looked dangerously like tenderness. Good girl. Now sleep. Tomorrow we make you untouchable. Rosa appeared as if summoned, leading me back to the bedroom. I should have run. Should have called the police, my roommate, anyone. Instead, I climbed into sheets that smelled faintly of lavender and lay awake, watching shadows dance across the ceiling, wondering if I'd just sold my soul or finally found the courage to claim it. Outside, I heard the low rumble of Dante's voice, speaking in Italian. Then footsteps. A pause outside my door, long enough that I held my breath, half hoping, half fearing he'd enter. He didn't. But I heard him whisper through the wood, so soft I almost missed it. Dormi bene, mia bella. Tomorrow, you become a queen. Sleep well, my beautiful one. I closed my eyes, Marcus's invitation burning in my memory, and smiled into the darkness. Morning arrived with pale sunlight filtering through silk curtains and the scent of fresh espresso. I woke disoriented, tangled in sheets worth more than my monthly salary, my mind struggling to reconcile last night's surreal events with the gilded reality surrounding me. A soft knock preceded Rosa's entrance. She carried a tray, espresso, pastries that looked handcrafted, fresh berries glistening with morning dew. Signor Ferraro is waiting, she said, setting the tray on the bedside table. He says to take your time, but... A small smile touched her lips. He is not a patient man when he wants something. And he wanted me. The thought sent heat curling through my stomach. I found him in the dining room, sunlight turning his dark hair almost blue-black. He'd traded last night's suit for charcoal slacks and a white shirt, sleeves rolled up, revealing those scarred forearms. He was on the phone again, speaking rapid Italian, but his eyes tracked my entrance with predatory focus. He ended the call abruptly. Sit. The table could have seated 20, but only 2 places were set, at the head and immediately to the right. Close. Intimate. Sleep well? His voice carried that morning roughness that did dangerous things to my pulse. Surprisingly, yes. Good. He poured coffee into a delicate cup, added cream without asking how I took it. He already knew. Had probably known before I walked into Luminosa last night. We have appointments today. First, the courthouse at 3, then shopping. You'll need appropriate clothing. Tonight, dinner with some business associates. They need to meet my fiancé. We will be in 6 hours. He slid a velvet box across the table. Open it. My hands trembled as I lifted the lid. Inside, a ring caught the morning light. Platinum band. Single emerald surrounded by diamonds. Exquisite. Terrifying. Family heirloom, Dante said, watching my face. It belonged to my grandmother. She would have liked you, I think. Your strength hiding as softness. Dante, I can't... He was around the table before I could finish, kneeling beside my chair, the ring balanced on his palm. You can. You will. His free hand caught mine, thumb stroking the pulse point at my wrist. This is real, Emma. Maybe it started as business, but I don't give my grandmother's ring to business arrangements. What are you saying? That I'm a possessive bastard who decided last night that you're mine? His eyes burned into me. That watching you in that green dress, seeing you become the woman you were meant to be, made me want things I have no right to want. He slid the ring onto my finger, a perfect fit. That if any man looks at you wrong today, I'll break his jaw. If your ex-boyfriend so much as breathes in your direction at that wedding, I'll destroy everything he loves. That's insane. Yes. No apology, just dark certainty. Get used to it. He stood, pulling me with him, his hands framing my face. I protect what's mine, Tesoro. Obsessively, Violently if necessary. You need to understand that before we do this. Once you wear my name, there's no halfway, no casual possession. You'll be mine in every way that matters. I should have been frightened, should have recognized the red flags waving like surrender banners. Instead, I felt something unfurl in my chest, something that had been locked away since Marcus left, since years of making myself smaller to fit into his life. And what do you get? I whispered. His thumb traced my lower lip, the touch electric. You. In my house, at my table, in my life. A pause, heavy with unspoken promises. In my bed, when you're ready to admit you want me as much as I want you. Confident. Observant. He stepped back, and I felt the loss of his warmth like a physical ache. Your pulse races when I'm close. Your pupils dilate when I touch you. You're attracted to me, Emma. Terrified, yes, but attracted. Attraction isn't enough. No. He returned to his seat, all business again, the shift dizzying. But it's a start. Now eat. We have a long day ahead. The courthouse ceremony was brief and clinical. A judge who barely looked at us, paperwork signed with hands that shook. Dante's security forming a wall of black suits around the small room. When the judge pronounced us married, Dante kissed me, soft, possessive, a promise and a warning. Mine, he murmured against my lips, and I tasted victory in his mouth. Shopping was an education in excess. Dante led me through boutiques that didn't display prices, where staff knew his name and disappeared into back rooms at a gesture. He chose my clothes with the same focus he applied to everything, decisive, exacting, possessive. This one. He held up a dress, midnight blue, backless, obscene in its elegance. It's too much. It's perfect. He stepped closer, voice dropping. I want to see you in it. Want every man in that restaurant tonight to know you're untouchable. Want them to see this. His fingers grazed the emerald ring. And understand that touching you means death. You can't kill everyone who looks at me. His smile was all edges. Watch me. By the time we returned to the townhouse, I had a wardrobe that rivaled Victoria's, shoes that cost more than my car would have, jewelry that required its own security detail. Dante had watched me try on each piece, his eyes dark and hungry, his control visible in the tension of his jaw, the white-knuckled grip on his phone. Tonight, he said as Rosa led me upstairs to prepare. You meet the family. Some are blood, most aren't. All are dangerous. Stay close to me. Speak only when spoken to. And if anyone makes you uncomfortable, tell me immediately. What will you do? Whatever's necessary. He caught my wrist, pulling me back against his chest. I felt his heartbeat, fast and fierce. You're under my protection now, Emma. That means something in my world. It means you're untouchable, sacred. His lips brushed my ear. It means I'll burn down cities before I let anyone hurt you. The restaurant, Siciliana, in Little Italy, closed to the public for our private dinner. Dante's hand never left the small of my back as we entered, his touch possessive and warm. The men waiting inside stood as one, their eyes assessing, calculating. Familia, Dante announced, his voice carrying the weight of command. My wife, Emma Ferraro. The name hit me like a physical blow. I was no longer Emma Hartley, invisible waitress. I was Emma Ferraro, married to a man whose presence demanded submission from everyone in the room. They came forward one by one. Marco, Dante's second, all muscle and cold calculation. Lorenzo, the accountant, whose gentle smile didn't reach his eyes. Antonio, youngest of the group, who looked at me with open curiosity before Dante's warning growl sent him stepping back. She's beautiful, Capo, Antonio said, recovering. You chose well. I know. Dante's arm wrapped around my waist, pulling me against his side. She's also off limits. Spread the word. Anyone who looks at her wrong answers to me. Dinner was a masterclass in controlled violence. The men spoke in a mixture of Italian and English, discussing shipments and territories and problems that needed handling. Dante translated when necessary, his hand finding mine beneath the table, fingers intertwining, thumb stroking my palm in soothing circles. You're doing well, he murmured during a lull in conversation. They like you. How can you tell? They're still breathing. His smile was dark humor and absolute truth. Halfway through the main course, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and something dangerous flickered across his face. "Excuse me." He stood, his hand on my shoulder firm, grounding. "Emma, stay here. Marco, watch her." He disappeared into a back room, and the temperature at the table dropped. Marco shifted closer, his bulk between me and the door, while the others continued eating as if nothing had happened. But I felt the tension, coiled springs waiting to snap. 5 minutes passed. 10. I could hear Dante's voice through the door, low and lethal, speaking Italian too fast for me to catch, then silence. The door opened, and Dante emerged, his expression carefully blank, but I saw the rage simmering beneath the surface, saw the way his hands clenched and released, knuckles white. "We're leaving." He pulled me from my chair with barely controlled violence. "Now." In the SUV, his silence was deafening. His hand found my thigh, gripping hard enough to bruise, as if anchoring himself. "What happened?" I asked. "Your ex-boyfriend." The words came out ground glass. "He called you 6 times today. Left messages." Ice flooded my veins. "How do you—" "I told you, Emma. I know everything." He turned to face me, and the possession in his eyes stole my breath. "He wants to talk. Says he made a mistake. Says he still loves you. Marcus. Calling me. After 3 months of silence. When did he—" "This afternoon. After the engagement announcement hit the society pages." Dante's laugh was bitter. "After he saw that Emma Hartley married Dante Ferraro. Suddenly you're worth his time again." Understanding crashed through me. Marcus hadn't called because he loved me. He'd called because I'd become valuable, because I'd married someone who made him look small. "I don't want to talk to him." "Good." Dante's hand moved from my thigh to cup my face, fierce and possessive. "Because if he comes near you, I'll kill him." "Not a threat, Emma. A promise. You're mine now. He had his chance and threw you away. He doesn't get another one." The SUV pulled up to the townhouse, but Dante didn't release me. Instead, he pulled me into his lap, my dress riding up, his arms banding around me like steel. "Say it," he demanded, his forehead against mine. "Say you're mine. I'm yours. Again." "I'm yours, Dante." His control snapped. His mouth crashed against mine, no longer soft or careful, but consuming. I opened for him, tasting rage and possession and something desperate. His hands tangled in my hair, angling my head, taking everything I offered and demanding more. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes glittered with dark promise. 2 weeks, he rasped. "You gave me 2 weeks, but tesoro. I don't think I can wait that long before I make you mine in every way." The days that followed blurred into a fever dream of luxury and possession. Dante was everywhere, his hand at my back during business meetings, his eyes tracking me across rooms, his presence a constant weight I felt even when he wasn't visible. He'd been serious about the obsession, about the jealousy that turned his jaw to granite whenever another man's gaze lingered too long. 3 days after our courthouse wedding, I witnessed exactly how far his protection extended. We were at a charity gala in the Plaza Ballroom. Another test, another introduction to Dante's world. I wore the midnight blue dress he'd chosen, his grandmother's emerald catching light with every breath. His hand rested possessively on my hip as we moved through the crowd, his touch broadcasting ownership to everyone watching. A man approached, older, silver-haired, expensive suit, the kind of confidence that came from inherited wealth. His eyes traveled over me with undisguised interest. "Dante," he said, extending his hand. "Good to see you." "And who is this exquisite creature?" I felt Dante stiffen beside me, felt the temperature drop. "My wife." The words came out wrapped in warning. "Emma Ferraro." "Wife?" The man's eyebrows rose. "How delightful. I didn't know you were the marrying type." He reached for my hand, clearly intending to kiss it. He never made contact. Dante moved with terrifying speed, his body between us, his hand catching the man's wrist with crushing force. "Touch her, and you'll lose the hand." The ballroom noise seemed to fade, conversations dying as people turned to watch. Dante, I meant no offense. You looked at her like she's yours to touch. She's not. Dante's voice carried across the sudden silence, each word a blade. She's mine, and I don't share. Marco appeared from nowhere, along with 2 other security personnel. The message was clear: leave or be removed. The man retreated, cradling his wrist, and the party slowly resumed, but I felt the stares, heard the whispers, saw the fear and fascination in equal measure. That was excessive, I managed once we were alone in a corner. That was necessary. Dante's hand cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. You need to understand something, Emma. In my world, perception is everything. If I let one man touch you without consequence, others will try. If I show weakness, you become a target. So this is all performance? His jaw tightened. This is survival. Mine and yours. His thumb traced my cheekbone, the touch gentle despite the violence still simmering in his gaze. But don't mistake the performance for the feeling. When I said you're mine, I meant it. When I threatened him, I meant it. The rage I feel when another man looks at you like he has rights, his voice dropped to something raw. That's real, Tesoro. That's the part I can't control. That night, I lay awake in my gilded bedroom, listening to Dante pace the hallway outside. He did that sometimes, walked the house like a caged predator, his footsteps a reminder that he was always watching, always close. A soft knock preceded his voice. Emma, are you awake? I should have pretended sleep. Instead, I found myself at the door, opening it to find him still dressed, exhaustion etched in the lines around his eyes. I can't sleep, he admitted, the confession seemingly pulled from him unwillingly. Knowing you're on the other side of this door, knowing I promised not to touch you unless invited, he dragged a hand through his hair. It's driving me insane. Dante, I'm not asking for anything. He stepped closer, and I smelled whiskey on his breath, cedar in his cologne. I just needed to see you, needed to know you're real, that this isn't some dream I'll wake from. The vulnerability in his voice undid something in me. This man, this dangerous, violent, obsessive man, looked at me like I was oxygen. Come in, I heard myself say. His eyes darkened. Emma, if I come in, I might not have the strength to leave. Then don't leave. He was through the door before I could reconsider, his hands framing my face, his forehead resting against mine. Tell me to stop. Tell me this is too fast, too much. Tell me you need more time. Instead, I kissed him. He groaned against my mouth, a sound of surrender and triumph. His arms wrapped around me, pulling me against the hard planes of his body, letting me feel exactly what I did to him. The kiss deepened, turned desperate, his hands sliding into my hair, down my spine, learning the curves he'd only looked at until now. Dio. He breathed against my neck, his lips tracing fire along my pulse. Do you have any idea what you do to me? How badly I've wanted this. Show me. He lifted me effortlessly, carrying me to the bed, laying me down with a reverence that contradicted the hunger in his eyes. Once I have you, Emma, I won't let go. You understand? This isn't casual. This isn't temporary. You'll be mine in every way. I'm already yours. The words unleashed him. His mouth claimed mine with bruising intensity while his hands explored, mapping territory he'd claimed but never touched. I arched into him. 3 days of tension and want finally finding release. But then his phone buzzed, harsh, insistent. He pulled back with a curse. I have to take this. Now? I'm sorry. He pressed a kiss to my forehead, tender despite the frustration visible in every line of his body. Business that can't wait. But Tesoro, his eyes promised dark things. This isn't over. When I come back, we finish this. He left, and I heard him on the phone in the hallway, his voice sharp with command. I lay in tangled sheets, my body still humming with unfulfilled need, wondering what kind of business called at 2 a.m. The answer came the next day. I woke to find Dante gone. A note on my bedside table in strong, slashing handwriting. Had to handle something. Marco will stay with you. Don't leave the house. D. Marco appeared at breakfast, his expression grim. Signora, please stay inside today. Dante's orders. What's happening? Nothing you need to worry about, but I saw the extra security, heard the rapid Italian on phones, felt the tension crackling through the house like electricity before a storm. Dante returned at sunset, his suit rumpled, a cut above his eyebrow, his knuckles split and bloody. I met him at the door, my heart in my throat. What happened? Took care of a problem. He moved past me toward the study, and I followed, watching him pour whiskey with hands that trembled slightly. You're hurt. I'm fine. Dante. Your ex-boyfriend. He downed the whiskey in one swallow. He showed up at your old apartment this morning, tried to contact your roommate, asking about you, where you were, who you'd really married. Cold dread pooled in my stomach. What did you do? He turned, and the darkness in his eyes made me step back. What I had to. Sent some associates to have a conversation with him. Made it very clear that you're off limits. That if he tries to contact you again, there will be consequences he won't survive. You threatened him. I promised him. Dante crossed to me, his presence overwhelming. He hurt you, Emma. Threw you away like trash, then had the audacity to come sniffing around when you became valuable. His hands cupped my face, thumbs stroking my cheekbones. No one hurts what's mine. No one. I should have been horrified. Should have seen the red flags, the danger, the possessive violence barely contained beneath his control. Instead, I felt protected, cherished, chosen. The wedding is in 5 days, I said softly. His eyes blazed. I know. I've already arranged everything. New wardrobe for you. Something that will make every woman there weep with envy. Security detail. Subtle but present. And transportation that will announce exactly who you've become. Dante, maybe this is too much. Nothing is too much. He pulled me against him, his arms iron bands. You're going to walk into that wedding on my arm, wearing my ring, carrying my name. And your ex-boyfriend is going to realize he traded a queen for a pretty girl who'll never love him the way you did. I don't love him anymore. Good. His voice turned rough. Because I'm a jealous bastard, Emma. I don't want to share even your memories of loving someone else. The next few days passed in a whirlwind of preparation. Dante became even more possessive, barely letting me out of his sight. He worked from home, his office door open so he could see me whenever I passed. At night, he'd appear at my door, sometimes talking, sometimes just watching me sleep from the doorway, as if reassuring himself I was real. This isn't normal, I told him one night when I caught him standing in the shadows. I never claimed to be normal. He moved into the lamplight, and exhaustion shadowed his features. I'm obsessed, Emma, with you, with keeping you safe, with making sure no one ever makes you feel small again. He sat on the edge of my bed, his hand finding mine. It scares you. Sometimes. But I think I needed someone to be obsessed with me, to see me, to choose me over everything else. I laced our fingers together. Marcus made me feel invisible. You make me feel like I'm the only person in the world. You are. He brought my hand to his lips, kissing each knuckle, the only one who matters. The night before the wedding, Dante came to my room carrying a velvet box. Tomorrow, you face your past, he said, opening it to reveal a diamond necklace that probably cost more than my childhood home. I want you armored in proof of your worth. Want you dripping in evidence that you're treasured. He fastened it around my neck, his fingers lingering on my skin, and met my eyes in the mirror. After tomorrow, no more questions about us, he said quietly. No more doubts. You'll have had your revenge, proven your point. And then, Tesoro, I'm going to ask you if you want to stay. Really stay. Not for 2 weeks. Forever. And if I say no, pain flickered across his face, then I'll let you go. It'll destroy me, but I'll do it. His arms wrapped around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. But I don't think you'll say no. I think you're as obsessed with me as I am with you. I think you crave this, the protection, the possession, the feeling of being chosen. He was right. And that terrified me more than anything. The morning of Marcus's wedding dawned cold and bright, the kind of October day that made Manhattan look like a postcard. I stood before the full-length mirror in my bedroom, barely recognizing the woman staring back. The dress Dante had chosen was a masterpiece. Champagne silk that hugged every curve before flowing to the floor, a neckline that hinted at sophistication without crossing into impropriety. The diamond necklace glittered at my throat, matched by earrings that caught the light with every breath. My hair had been styled by someone Rosa brought in, swept up in an elegant twist that exposed my neck, the emerald ring impossible to miss on my hand. I looked expensive, untouchable, powerful. Bellissima, Dante breathed from the doorway. I turned to find him in a three-piece charcoal suit that had clearly been tailored to perfection. His dark hair swept back, the cut above his eyebrow nearly healed. But it was his expression that stopped my heart, awe and possession and something deeper, something that looked dangerously like love. "You're staring," I managed. "I can't help it." He crossed to me, his hand settling on my waist. "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And you're mine. For 2 more weeks." His jaw tightened. "We'll see about that." He pressed a velvet box into my hands. "One more thing." Inside lay a bracelet, delicate platinum links studded with emeralds. But it was the small charm that made my breath catch. A tiny key, exquisitely detailed. "The key to what?" I asked as he fastened it around my wrist. "Everything." His fingers lingered on my pulse point. "My house, my life, my heart if you want it." He lifted my hand, pressing a kiss to my palm. "Are you ready to face him?" Marcus. The wedding. The moment I'd been simultaneously dreading and craving. Yes. The drive to the venue, some historic mansion in the Hamptons, took 2 hours. Dante spent most of it on the phone, speaking rapid Italian, his free hand never leaving my thigh. Marco drove, with 2 more security vehicles flanking us, an escort fit for royalty. "Is all this really necessary?" I asked during a rare quiet moment. Dante's eyes met mine, serious. "Yes. You're walking into a room full of people who knew you as Marcus's discarded girlfriend. They need to see that you're untouchable now, that you're protected by someone they should fear." "You want them to be afraid?" "I want them to understand." His hand cupped my face. "You're under my protection, Emma. That means something in circles like these. It means Marcus made the biggest mistake of his life, and everyone will know it." The mansion was already filled with guests when we arrived, luxury cars lining the circular drive, music drifting through open French doors. Dante helped me from the SUV, his hand immediately finding the small of my back, possessive and warm. We entered together, and I felt the exact moment the room noticed us. Conversations stuttered, heads turned, eyes widened, because everyone recognized Dante Ferraro, and now they were connecting him to me. "Emma?" A familiar voice. Sarah, one of Marcus's cousins. She approached with poorly concealed shock. "Oh my God, I almost didn't recognize you. You look incredible." "Thank you," I smiled, feeling Dante's hand tighten on my waist. "And you are?" Sarah's eyes traveled over Dante with undisguised interest. "Her husband." Dante's voice carried that edge of warning I'd come to recognize. "Dante Ferraro." Sarah's face paled. She knew the name. Everyone in New York society knew the name. "Congratulations," she stammered, backing away. More people approached, drawn by curiosity and shock. Each time, Dante introduced himself with that same possessive certainty, his body language making it clear I belonged to him. I watched their reactions, the fear, the envy, the dawning understanding that I was no longer the girl they could pity or ignore. Then I saw Marcus. He stood near the altar, resplendent in his tuxedo, Victoria beside him in a white gown that probably cost 6 figures. But he wasn't looking at his bride. He was staring at me, his face a mask of shock and something that looked like regret. Dante felt my tension. "That's him." "Yes." His arm wrapped around me, pulling me against his side. "He's nothing, Tesoro. A boy playing at being a man. Look at him, already regretting his choices." Marcus started toward us, but Dante's security materialized from the shadows, a wall of black suits that stopped him mid-step. The message was clear. "You don't approach without permission." "Dante," I whispered. "Let him come." His eyes blazed. "Why?" "Because I need to face him. Need to know this is real." He studied my face for a long moment, then nodded sharply. The security parted. Marcus approached like a man walking to his execution, his eyes never leaving my face. "Emma, you look... I heard you got married, but I didn't believe it." Dante's voice could have cut glass. "She's my wife, Emma Ferraro." Marcus's attention finally shifted to Dante, and I watched him pale, watched fear flicker across his features. "I didn't know. If I had, I never would have what?" Dante stepped forward, and Marcus retreated, called her repeatedly, showed up at her apartment, tried to worm your way back into her life the moment she became valuable. "I made a mistake," Marcus said, his voice shaking. "Breaking up with Emma was the biggest mistake of my life. Good." Dante's smile was all teeth. "Live with it. Because you'll never get another chance. She's mine now, under my protection. And if you ever contact her again, if you even think about her, I'll make sure you regret being born. Dante." Victoria appeared, her hand on Marcus's arm, her eyes cold. "We don't want any trouble." "Then stay away from my wife." He turned to me, his expression softening. "Have you seen enough, Tesoro, or do you want to stay and watch him marry his consolation prize?" The cruelty of the words should have bothered me. Instead, I felt liberated. Free. "I've seen enough." We left before the ceremony even started, walking out of that mansion and that life like it had never mattered. In the SUV, Dante pulled me into his lap, his arms wrapping around me, his face buried in my neck. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice muffled. "I'm perfect." And I meant it. The closure I'd thought I needed from Marcus's reaction paled in comparison to the realization I'd just had. "Dante?" He lifted his head, his eyes searching mine. "What is it?" "I don't want to leave. Not after 2 weeks. Not ever." His entire body went still. "Emma, I know it's fast. I know it's insane. But somewhere between your obsession and your protection and your possessive jealousy, I fell in love with you." I cupped his face, feeling the stubble rough against my palms. "I love that you see me, that you chose me, that you look at me like I'm the most valuable thing in your world. You are." His voice cracked. "You're everything, Emma. From the moment I saw you in that restaurant, invisible to everyone else I knew, you were meant to be mine. Then keep me." I kissed him, pouring everything into it. Gratitude, desire, love. "Keep me, Dante. Make me yours in every way." He groaned against my mouth, his control finally shattering. "Marco, take us home. Now." The drive back to Manhattan was a blur of desperate kisses and whispered promises. By the time we reached the townhouse, I was half out of my dress, Dante's tie discarded somewhere in the SUV. He carried me inside, up the stairs, past a smirking Rosa, into his bedroom. A room I'd never entered before. Dark wood, navy sheets, everything screaming masculine power. "Last chance." He breathed against my lips as he lowered me onto the bed. "Tell me to stop, and I will. Tell me you need more time. I need you." I pulled him down, feeling his weight, his heat, the hard evidence of exactly how much he wanted me. All of you. Forever. What happened next was consuming. He worshipped every inch of skin as he slowly removed my dress, his mouth following his hands, learning what made me gasp, what made me beg. When he finally claimed me completely, it felt like coming home. Like every moment of my life had been leading to this, to him, to us. Afterward, we lay tangled together, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on my skin, my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly. I tensed. "What?" "The night I saw you at Luminosa, it wasn't chance. I'd been watching you for weeks." I lifted my head to look at him. "What?" "One of my associates owns the building where you used to live. He mentioned a tenant who worked double shifts, who never caused trouble, who had an ex-boyfriend harassing her." His hand cupped my face. "I looked into you, saw your picture, and I became obsessed. Started finding reasons to eat at Luminosa, hoping to see you. That night when you served my table, it felt like fate. So this was all planned? The meeting was planned? Everything after? He smiled, soft and vulnerable. That was real. My obsession, my possessiveness, my need to protect you, all real. You weren't supposed to matter this much. You were supposed to be a convenient arrangement. His thumb stroked my cheek. Instead, you became everything. I should have been angry about the manipulation. Should have felt used. Instead, I felt chosen, pursued, wanted with an intensity I'd never experienced. I love you, I whispered. His eyes closed, as if the words pained him. I love you, tesoro mio, more than I have words to express. You're my obsession, my possession, my everything. He kissed me, slow and deep, and I promise I'll spend every day of our lives making sure you never regret choosing me. 2 months later, I stood in that same bedroom, watching snow fall over Manhattan through floor-to-ceiling windows. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah, a picture from Marcus and Victoria's honeymoon, both looking miserable despite the tropical backdrop. I deleted it without responding. Behind me, Dante emerged from the shower, water still clinging to his skin, his eyes finding me with that possessive heat that never faded. Thinking about the past? He asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind. No. I leaned into his warmth, into the safety of his obsession, into the life we'd built from a chance encounter and a desperate choice. Just grateful for the present and the future. I turned in his arms, seeing my forever in his dark eyes. The future is ours. He kissed me then, possessive and tender, a promise and a claiming all at once. Outside, the city glittered with possibility. Inside, I'd found something I never knew I was searching for. A love that was obsessive, protective, and absolutely mine. Marcus's wedding invitation still sat in a drawer somewhere, a reminder of who I used to be. But as Dante lifted me into his arms, carrying me back to bed with that predatory smile I'd come to crave, I knew exactly who I'd become. Emma Ferraro. Wife to a dangerous man, queen of my own life, loved with an intensity that bordered on madness, and I wouldn't have it any other way.